Welcome to Leadership Speaking Radio, the podcast for professional speakers, industry leaders, and change makers who want to learn how to communicate with impact, authenticity, and human connection in the digital age. My name is Dr. Laura Penn. I'm the founder of the Leadership Speaking School, and I'm your host. Visit my website at theleadershipspeakingschool.com to find out more how we can support you to show up as the best version of yourself every time you speak. Now, let's get straight into our topic. Warm welcome back, everybody. It is another episode of Leadership Speaking Radio. And hey, this is the first episode of the 6th season of this show. How about that? For 6 whole years, I have been podcasting and spilling the beans and sharing the tea and really trying to get as many insights, anecdotes, and pearls of wisdom and golden nuggets into your hearts and minds as possible. I hope that you've enjoyed the journey so far. And if you're new to this podcast, welcome, and go back to the beginning so that you can catch up to everything that's been going on over these past 6 years. Folks, this is episode number 69, and I'm calling it The Revolution of the Heart. And hey, this is how I want to start the next season. I want to download so many things into you this season that I have been working on behind the scenes, that I am doing in parallel with my work. I'm going to be really widening this podcast this season. You'll hear more from me. You'll hear more from guest perspectives. And also this coincides with the opening of my brand new Substack. For those of you who don't know what Substack is, it's kind of the golden pile of all of the stuff that creators like me put in one place, like an archive. It was originally for writers who wanted to write their great content and have a place for their readers to go and find it. And now it's just amazing. Now it's opened up. So it's not just the writing, it's also going to be live streaming and podcasting and all of these other juicy ways to communicate. So I'm migrating away from LinkedIn. I'll still be there and kind of show up every now and then. But my new home for my content is Substack. And my Substack is called The Art of Speaking. If you look that up and you look at substack.com, you will find me there under Dr. Laura Penn. And inside of my Substack is really everything that I create. So I'm putting all my articles there, all those years of writing, which, by the way, gets lost when they're on LinkedIn. You have articles there, but nobody sees them. The algorithm is deciding who sees what. Like, it's really scattered. I was so unhappy with that. I pour so much of myself into the work that I do, and I want people to be able to benefit from some of the insights. So it's important for me to have a platform like Substack where I know what I put on there is going to be reached by the people who want to reach it. And another thing about Substack, which is different, is it's a subscription-based platform. And the good news is that you can subscribe for free, so you don't have to pay anything. But if you do want to pay and have a deeper level of entry into the work I do, kind of a, you need a key to this door kind of experience, then you can pay, you can subscribe. And it's available. So head over to my Substack, The Art of Speaking, see what's there. If you like what you see, subscribe for free or choose a plan that works for you. I'm just so jazzed. I have a place to put all my love. So off you go and check that out. And anyway, in talking about this new season, season 6 of Leadership Speaking Radio, this Substack is a big piece of that because I'll be doing live shows, live streams there. I'll be talking to people who are in my network. I was looking at, some contacts that I have in my network recently, and I thought, oh my goodness, I know so many different types of people from so many different walks of life. I mean, these past 16 years of working on the front line with professional speakers and industry leaders and change makers really has a nice Rolodex feel where I could just contact these people again and ask them more questions and really get deep into the art of speaking, which is about people speaking, using words, how to create those words and how to deliver them. So just get ready for that and really just jump in with me if this is something that you are interested in. I just can't wait to swim with you. So with that said, let me get into this particular episode, the revolution of the heart. Look, this has come about by lots of different means, lots of little roads coming into one place, this revolution of the heart. First of all, the idea for the revolution of the heart as a kind of title and a heading came from a woman I was watching on stage. Last year, I was in Wales. I was in this incredible school environment, and one of the students' moms was a really well-known filmmaker. And she was doing a viewing of her new film for the school and for the people who were there. I was at the school to support the students to learn leadership speaking, I live for helping students who are hungry for this skill to learn it. Anyway, that's why I was there. So I was sitting in the audience, and her documentary, first of all, just touched exactly where it needed to touch, which is the center of my heart. And at one point, she's talking about the state of the world and her art in it. And she said, we need a revolution of the heart. And she carried on to talk about how, we need more love than hate. We need more love than fear. We need more love to take care of the planet that we live on, etc., etc. But for me, the light bulb went off. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm capturing this phrase. This phrase also represents what I do. That I see so much on the front line of how people are communicating. Professional speakers, industry leaders, change makers, their work, their passion, their talent, and their gift to us as their listeners. It has to come from a place of love, and then we'll listen. It has to come from a place of love, we'll pay attention. And if you touch other people with your words and it opens something in their heart, that's where the love is. That's the revolution of the heart. So that's where this idea came from. And that's why I'm launching season 6 with this episode, The Revolution of the Heart. Because now is the time, dear people, where we need to open hearts, not close them. And we need to open our eyes along with our hearts to pay attention to what is happening, A, to humanity, and B, to the world around us and the planet that we call home. The time has come for us to stand up and to take stock and to do something about the trouble we might be feeling or seeing or sensing. And leading with your heart, opening it, letting it in, letting these ideas and visions and feelings in, and then doing something about it is the antidote. And obviously, I'm talking to you from the perspective of communication and speaking from the heart. The revolution of the heart is about saying what you mean, meaning what you say, as you say it. That's what that's about. And it's time to open those floodgates. It's time for your audiences to really sense you, see you, feel you. You know what I always say. If I really see you, I connect with you. That connection is the revolution of the heart. That connection is what everybody's yearning for and craving in the speaking that we see around the world. That connection is what is missing because we are disengaging our bodies from our communication. And we're disengaging that connection that we have to ourselves, which disengages the connection that we have to our audience. The revolution of the heart is the fix. So that's my setup for this podcast episode. And I want to go through the idea of the revolution of the heart by breaking down the letters of the word heart. H, E, A, R, and T. Now, you've heard me do this in other episodes where I break down all kinds of letters, all kinds of words. I like this as a method for you to get some of the tools in the toolbox and for me to be able to synthesize them into, bite-sized chunks of knowledge that you can use and apply in a practical way. So let's start with the H of heart. The H of heart is going to represent the word habits. Now, I was so delighted. I was working with an industry leader a couple of weeks ago, and I helped her to work on rehearsal and preparation to be a moderator of a panel for a big conference. And I love this work. It was really juicy, really, hands in the mud kind of work, where from start to finish, we worked on the layers of first I create the content, what am I going to say? And then how do I rehearse this content so that I can deliver it with gravitas? That's what we did. And she wrote me a message when she was all done and dusted with the event, which went off beautifully, flying colors. And she said a couple of things in that note. She said, one, people came to her and said that this was the most engaging and enlightening part of the whole conference. Check, right? That's because she was prepared. She was ready. She gave her heart. It worked. And the other thing that she said to me, she said, Dr. Penn, I am ready to go from habits to craft. And honestly, those words just, were like little Disney birds that flew around my head. I was so happy to hear her use those words. And it just made a lot of sense because before our work together, she was running on habits. She was doing what she normally does, things that she had done to create that content over the years. Same old, right? And things that she had done to prepare for the delivery, which in her case was not much, just reading her notes just before she went on stage in her head. But since we had worked together over those weeks and she had learned craft, she could now make choices. She could now be the master of her own techniques. She could now make bold decisions about how she wanted to show up in the preparation of her delivery and in the preparation of her content. So that's what habits are about in the H for heart. That in order for you to have a revolution of the heart, it's time to migrate from habits, things that you do because you've just been doing them all these years and they've worked for you to survive, to move to craft, where you've learned skills, right? Real skills that have taken you into the actual workings, into the nuts and bolts of how to do things. You've learned skills that you can apply to any speaking situation, whether you're speaking live to an audience like she did on this stage where she was the moderator, or if you are speaking online. Craft is involved in either of those scenarios. Case and point, craft is involved when you're creating the content. You're asking yourself certain questions. For example, how do I want my audience to feel as a result of my talk? What do I want my audience to know? And what do I want my audience to do? Those three questions, when you're creating your content, are craft-based, because they are ways for you to position how you talk about your content. They are ways for you to compose and to create a composition of words and thoughts that have thought behind them, as opposed to habit, where, well, I'm just going to write this because this is how I normally do it. Does that make sense? Craft is also used, as you know so well if you've been listening to this podcast over the years, in how you are going to rehearse your delivery. Yes? That people's habits, and I make this number up, but it really feels like it's something like it. 99.6% of the professional speakers, industry leaders, and change makers that I work with will not rehearse out loud or embody their text. They will maybe just read their content and think about it in their minds before they go on stage, before they go online, before they deliver that talk. That is not craft. That is habit, a bad habit. It does not embody the work. You don't feel anything. If you are not connected to yourself, remember, how are you going to connect to the outside? So that rehearsal embodies that text for you. That's craft. So the H for heart is about habits, going from habits, operating from that place of using habits to operating from a place of using craft. It involves you doing the work. It involves you pulling up your shirt sleeves, yes, getting them up there by your elbows so that you can tuck in and do the work. That is going to take you closer to being a part of the revolution of the heart. Now let's go to the E. The E in heart, the word heart, Heart, is about energy. Now, I always hear myself say this to all of the students in my master classes around the world. I say, I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. And that is that one of your main jobs as a speaker is to manage energy. On the one hand, I say, you are managing the energy of your audience. What are they doing? How are they sitting? What are their needs? How are you paying attention to what's going on in that room? How are you meeting your audience where they are? You're managing their energy. And on the other hand, you're managing your own energy. And you know this. You are managing your presence. And you just have to go back a couple of episodes to that episode on presence and really get the whole rundown on what that is. But you are managing how you're showing up. Are you showing up in your energy of being withdrawn in the first circle, disappearing, not wanting to be in the room, being inaudible? Is that your energy? Or are you pushing yourself at the audience, perspiring as you speak because the push is so intense, right? Spraying your words out like a spray can with no focus over the heads of the audience. Is that what you're doing with your energy? Or are you in your body? Your feet planted firmly on the floor, your breath in every cell and nerve and fiber in your body. You aligned with what you are saying and in flow. Is that your energy? The E of heart is about energy. And you know that the last energy that I talked about, that last state of presence, that's the second circle. And that second circle presence is what gets you into other people's hearts. The first circle of withdrawal keeps you away from yourself and everybody else. It's a wall that comes up between you and them. And the third circle, as you know, is the push, where you go beyond the heads. You're up in the sky, it floats up, your words, they disappear into the evanescence of the room. The second circle is where you connect. And learning how to be in the second circle is craft. Man, I wish I could teach you this on a podcast, but I can't. It's something that you have to do live, right? Because you have to work it in the body. It's something that you do over and over and over again and learn it as a technique. So, find a way to do that or come and work with me. Either way, you need to be managing your energy. So this is the E of heart. Energy. A way to get a revolution of the heart is to manage your energy. Meet your audience where they are. Pay attention to that. Make the bold decisions that you need to make. And stay in the second circle so you can connect. Let's go to the A of heart. The A of heart is about your audience, of course. Now, you are no stranger to me talking about your audience's needs, are you? You know all about this. In fact, part of this podcast is about things you've heard me say before. I'm just packaging them differently and talking about them in relationship to the heart this time. But the A of heart for audience is, of course, kind of what I've just said already. Meeting your audience where they are, right? What does that really mean? It means you are not alone in that room. Whether it is a virtual room and you're speaking to people online, or you are live in a room with other humans, you're not alone. You are not creating a monologue, folks. It's not the me show. It's the, what do you want to say? The we show. Yes. If you said the we show without me saying it first, you're a true and tested listener of this podcast. So, the we show. Make it about the audience. Can you say in your text more often, can you say more you and we and less I and me? Can you do that? Because when you do that, you are creating that connection with the audience. It's not about you, it's about them. What can you say in your content, with your expertise, with your knowledge and insights, that is useful and serves the needs and interests of your audience? That's the we show. That's making it about the audience. How can you show up in that room and make it about the audience? In your body. Well, I was working with another industry leader a couple of weeks ago back in Amsterdam. And it was thrilling. We were doing a rehearsal for her upcoming high-stakes talk in front of her colleagues. They were going to do an off-site retreat. They were going to go on a farm. And they were going to spend the whole day together, team building and really, getting deeper bonds with each other. And she was going to kick things off with this off-site and give a really important 15-minute talk. So we were working on her delivery performance of that. And remember I said the word farm? Well, we need to meet the audience where they are, not just, who they are and what they need from you as a speaker, but also what kind of room you're in, what kind of space you're in. Now, it would be wrong to show up in a farm environment. Now, I didn't know what the room looked like. That was one thing I wish I knew more of, but I imagined it and she sort of described it to me. Outside was a bunch of mud and hay and animals and tractors and things. And this was some building on that farm where there was a slide projector set up and people were sitting there and, all the kind of business utensils were in there. But it was still kind of rustic and it felt really like, okay, we're here on the farm. So it would have been wrong to show up standing and pointing and talking to slides in that situation. Do you agree? What we needed to do was we needed to find a way for her to meet the audience in that room where they were. So I suggested to her, I said, why don't you start sitting down? So your colleagues are sitting in a semicircle that, she's set up already. And that creates a gathering, that creates a unified group. But how about you take a chair and you pull that chair up so you're, on stage, so to speak, in front of them, but you're sitting down and you're in the second circle and you begin your talk that way. How about that for meeting them where they are? How about that for making it the we show? And that's exactly what she did in the rehearsal. And everything just sort of softened and she, met those eyes at their level and started her talk out that way. Now, she was only sitting for a couple of moments, maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds at the most for this particular content. But then she stood up because then, things started to happen in the talk and it became animated and she needed to move around. But hey, that's a choice. That's a choice. That's craft. That's craft, because if you know about the we show and it's not about you, it's about your audience, what decisions, what bold decisions, what choices are you making so that you can meet the audience where they are at their eye level? You can sit down. You can face them. You can be at a farm. You can be here together, right? So this is what I'm talking about audience. My goodness, did she do well. She wrote me back because I love it when my students come back at me with how it went. I live for those emails where I've done work with someone and they're like, hey, this is how it went, And it worked. So she was happy. They were happy. She met them where they are. That's the A of heart. Can you meet your audiences where they are? Can you meet them there on the level of your content so that you are talking to them about things that matter to them, that are relevant, where you're using stories and anecdotes that touch them, that they get, that make sense? And can you meet them in the room that they're in, that you're in, with them? Meet them there. What do you need to do in that room? What needs to be adjusted so that you see them and they see you, and together you do that dance of connection? That's what you ask yourself if you want a revolution of your heart. Now let's go to the R. I'm going to go fast in this R because you know what the R is, don't you? Can you guess what it is? Rehearsal. Repetition, repetition, repetition. It is the silver bullet for the best speaking you've ever done in your whole life. You know it. I know it. Your audience knows it. Don't fall into the trap, ladies and gentlemen, of not rehearsing, of not preparing that delivery performance, of doing what so many people tend to do, which is they tell themselves the following: I want to show up as an authentic version of myself. I don't want to seem stunted and robot-like when I speak. So I'm not going to rehearse. Because when I do rehearse, that's what happens. No. If you've been listening to this podcast over the last couple of years and you know my work, you know that that's a non-starter. In order for you to get into a place of comfort with your content, you must rehearse. In order for that content to be a part of your DNA and for it to just effortlessly flow out of you, you must rehearse. It's an embodied craft. It's something you put inside the body so that it can flow out of you. It's a performance art. So rehearse. Rehearse it more than once. Rehearse it more than twice. Read your words out loud. Move around in the first stages of your rehearsal. And then get into position. Is this an online talk and are you sitting or standing? Get into that position. Rehearse that way. Are you on a stage? Are you moving around on the stage and moving with purpose? Rehearse that way. Put the movement and the words into your bones, and your bones and your body will support the message. Your whole body is the communication machine, not just your head, not just that floating head with some shoulders online. It's your whole body. And when you rehearse, you use and engage your whole body to help you to apply and speak your words. So that's the R for heart. If you want a revolution of your heart and of others' hearts, you must rehearse. Now the T, the last bit of this word, for how to make a revolution happen in how you speak in front of your audiences of peers, teams, and stakeholders. The T is togetherness. The T is that thing that most of us are yearning for, that connection to other people. This is the gold of effective leadership speaking. You know it, and I know it. That magical touch of connection that comes from when you sense that you are in authentic flow with your audience. It's the dance of I give, I receive. I give, I receive. It's that feeling of ultimate connection and togetherness, the gathering of humans in a room, the togetherness of people listening to each other, having a dialogue with each other, understanding each other, giving each other space and time to speak, to communicate, and to be joined in a moment of thought. This togetherness is kind of the red thread that sews the whole package together of effective communication. That togetherness is the goal for you as a person who uses the craft of leadership speaking. It's your goal when you create content. What do I want my audience to feel? What do I want them to know? What do I want them to do? What are those goals? That ultimate goal is, well, I want to create a dialogue. I want this to be something that, is a back and forth between you and me, my audience. I want this to be a we show, right? That togetherness comes from how you talk, how you speak the words that you've spent so much time and effort creating. How do you use your voice to share the actual meaning of what you are saying? Well, you rehearse the words, you know that, but you also have to speak through prosody. You're using volume and speed and tone and pausing and all of the jewels of ways to speak so that people want to listen to what you have to say. And so that your words open like little energy parcels, right? That then float into the hearts and minds. The meaning floats into the hearts and minds of your audiences. That's love. That's T for togetherness. That's connection. That's meaning what you say. And that's everything wrapped up in how you speak. So, folks, that's the heart of the revolution of the heart. The H for going from habit into craft, right? Making the decision, learning those skills, taking the courses, doing the stage time, trying things out, right? Doing the work that you need to do so that you learn the craft. The E, of course, is about energy. You are responsible for the energy that you bring into the room. You have choices about it. You want to get into the second circle in the beginning. You want to return to the second circle when you have left it for a while. And you want to end in the second circle. That's that connection. Your job is to manage energy, the audience's energy and yours. And then there's the A for the audience. Meet them where they are. Meet them where they are with your content so that it serves their needs and interests. Meet them where they are in the room, virtual or live, that you're in. Then there's the R for rehearsal. Put it into your bones. When it's in your bones, then you can be authentic. Then you can be yourself. When it's that deeply inside of you, then it can come out for real. If it's superficial, if you haven't put it into your body, it's not going to come out for real. It's going to come out hollow. It's going to sound like somebody else is talking. It doesn't have any heart in it. There's nothing that beats with life because it's not in your bones. The T, togetherness. That's your job. Bring the connection into the room through your content and how you deliver it. That's the art of leadership speaking. And that's how you can have a revolution of the heart. Isn't that exciting? All of these are choices that are within your reach. Put the sweat equity, the work, the effort, the love, the time, the attention into it, and you will reap the rewards of this revolution. And bigger than that, the world will be a better place because of it. When you have a revolution of your heart, you impact other hearts. And you make the world a better place, one communication at a time. So that's all for now. I hope you gleaned some new information in there. Maybe you repeated some information that you've heard me say before. Either way, go out and do it. Go out and try things out. My challenge for you is for you to take one of those letters, the H, the E, the A, the R, or the T, and try it out this week. Do something different. Touch one of those letters. Try it out. See how it works. And yeah, let me know how it goes. How about that? Let me know how it goes. Write me a little note. There are so many different ways to get a hold of me. One of them is now the Substack at The Art of Speaking, the Dr. Laura Penn Substack. The other way is for you to write me on my website, www.theleadershipspeakingschool.com. Find a way. Tell me how it's going. Try one of these letters out for yourself this week. That's your challenge. Okay? So let me end this episode. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed delivering it. Subscribe now to Leadership Speaking Radio on my YouTube channel to be sure not to miss an episode. And don't forget to visit my website, theleadershipspeakingschool.com, to learn more about how you can show up as the best version of yourself every time you speak to your peers, teams, and stakeholders. And hey, if you're enjoying this podcast and get real value from it, go ahead and recommend it to a friend or a colleague so that they can get value too. And most of all, to help this podcast grow, please give it a 5-star rating. It really does make a difference. Well, that's all for now, folks. I'm so glad we spent this time together. Go off and create your revolution of the heart. The world needs it. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.